Hello friends, I welcome you all to the session on Pharmaceutical Aerosols Part 3. Myself Tosha Pandya, Assistant Professor, LG Institute of Pharmacy. In this presentation, we are going to see about the manufacturing of aerosols and different quality control tests of aerosols. In the previous sessions, we have seen about what are aerosols and different components of the aerosols. Now you must be curious how all these components are put together to form a complete aerosol product. So this session is going to be very interesting as you will come to know about different manufacturing process of aerosols and different quality control tests an aerosol product must pass through to come into the market. So let's begin with the session. So this is the general flow by which the manufacture of aerosol takes place. So first of all, you take an empty aerosol container to which the product concentrate is filled. After filling the product concentrate, you fit the valve through which you add the propellant by different filling process which we are going to see in detail. And finally, you place the actuator and seal the container. So basically you have three manufacturing methods of aerosols. You have the pressure filling process, you have the cold filling process, and you have the compressed gas filling process. We are going to discuss the first two in detail as the compressed gas filling process is not much used. The pressure filling process utilizes a pressure filling apparatus for filling of the contents into the container. Now this is a pressure burette which resembles the burette you are using in your lab experiments during the titration. Now what is the fundamental of filling of the components through pressure filling process? So what happens here, the propellant is filled under its own vapor pressure through an inlet valve which may be situated at the top of the pressure burette or at the bottom of the pressure burette. Now when the pressure between the container and the pressure burette becomes equal, the propellant will stop flowing automatically. So let's see the process in detail. First of all, here the product concentrate is filled into the empty container, after which the valve is placed and crimped into its place. The propellant is filled through the valve into the aerosol container. Now this is the major flaw in this process, as the propellant has to pass through so narrow opening of around 0.018 to 0.030 inch. This will limit the production speed of the process. But now with the advancement and the availability of the rotary filling machines, the production speed has increased tenfolds. The very important thing to keep in mind is to remove the trapped air from the head space to protect the product from the adverse effects. This is the general flow of the components during the manufacturing of aerosols by pressure filling process. First of all, you have the unscrambler, which will unscramble all the components, the containers, valves and actuators. Then you have the air cleaner, which by forcing the air will clean all the components. Then you have the concentrate filler, which will fill the product concentrate into the empty container. Then the valve is placed and crimped with the help of valve placer and valve crimper. And finally, you fill the propellant through the valve in this process. After filling of the propellant and sealing the container, it has to pass through the water bath for the leak testing. So once the aerosol containers have passed the leak test, they are then finally labeled and coded, and finally the aerosol cans are packed in the packing box. So what are the advantages of the pressure filling process? Some solutions, suspension, emulsions which are adversely affected by chilling process can be filled easily by this method. Moreover, you do not have the fear of moisture contamination of your components. The production speed is also achieved high with the availability of the rotary filling machines, and the loss of propellant is less by this method. The major disadvantage of this method is that sometimes the metering is not possible, but now you have the metered pressure burette also available in the market, and the production speed is lower than the cold filling process. Now we'll see the pressure filling with the help of a demo video. So here you see the containers are filled by the pressure burette, and the propellant will stop flowing automatically when the pressure is becoming equal between the burette and the container. This is similar when you fill the air in your vehicle tires, right? So I hope you are clear with the process. The next process is the cold filling process. As the name suggests, here some chilling will take place. So for that, here you have an insulated box which is fitted with coiled copper tubings which are aiding to increase the surface area exposed to cooling. Okay, now this container insulated box is priorly filled with dry ice or acetone. The apparatus here has the advantage of being metered with the metered valves. The only drawback here is the hydrocarbon propellants cannot be used as they may lead to explosion. The process which is following here is that the non-aqueous products and the components, pay attention, the non-aqueous products and the products which can withstand very low temperatures as low as -40 degrees Fahrenheit can only be filled by this method. Okay, so what happens here? In the already chilled container, you chill the product concentrate at -40 degrees Fahrenheit and it is filled into the container. Okay, and then finally you chill the propellant in another container below its boiling point at -40 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it is filled in one or two stages into the all pre-filled container. Or what can be done, you chill the container and in another container you mix both the product concentrate and the propellant and chill them at -40 degrees Fahrenheit and fill them together into the container. Okay, so and finally after filling of both these things, you place the valve and crimp. Now this is the major change between the pressure filling and the cold filling process. In the pressure filling process, you are first filling the product concentrate, fitting the valve and then adding the propellant, whereas here you are filling both the product concentrate and propellant first and then the valve is fitted. Okay, so here the arrangement of components is almost similar, only the changes here. Here you have first the concentrate filler, then the propellant filler and the valve placer, whereas in the pressure filling you had the valve placer in between the concentrate filler and the propellant filler. So advantage of this process is that it is easy in nature, but the disadvantage is that many solutions, aqueous products, emulsions, suspensions which cannot withstand the chilling or low temperatures of -40 degrees Fahrenheit cannot be filled by this process. So this is the general diagram of the cold filling process. As you can see here, it is an insulated box and you have various coils here which are increasing the surface area of this process. So I hope you are clear with all the manufacturing process of the aerosols. The compressed gas filling process, which we have not discussed, is not much used, but one thing is that the compressed gases have very high pressure, so you require a pressure reducing valve in the process. The other process is similar to the pressure filling and the cold filling process. Now we'll see the quality control test the aerosol product must pass through to come into the market. Different quality control test involves the testing of the following components. You check for the propellants, you check for the valves, actuators and the dip tubes. You have the testing of the components, the weight checking, the leak testing and finally the spray testing. For the testing of the propellants, we have the general test for identification and the purity and acceptability. Identification, like you do for any other compound, is done by gas chromatography because it is a liquid component, or by IR spectroscopy. And the purity and acceptability are done by moisture content analysis through Karl Fischer, halogen content, non-volatile residue content analysis. Okay. The valves, actuators and dip tubes, they are to be tested for their valve delivery rate. Okay, so for that what is done? You take 25 valves and place them on the container filled with specific test solution. The list of specific test solution you will get from different reference books. Okay, the actuator with 0.020 inch orifice is attached. Okay, and the temperature is maintained to -25 plus or minus 1 degree Celsius. The valve is actuated for fullest extent for 2 seconds. Okay, and it is weighed. Again, it is actuated to fullest for 2 seconds and again it is weighed. So the difference between the two weights represents the delivery in mg. Okay, so you can see the valve delivery per actuation in microliter is the individual delivery weight in mg upon the specific gravity of the test solution which we have used. Now you have the limit of valve acceptance for different delivery solutions. So if the solution volume is For 54 microliter or less, then you have the limit of 15%, and if it is 55 to 200 microliter, the limit is 10%. The containers are examined for any defects in the lining. The degree of conductivity of electric current as a measure of exposed metals is a major QC aspect here. The glass containers are also examined for any defects in the container. Okay, the weight checking is done by tearing the empty container and then filling the container and weighing it again. Okay, the leak testing, as we discussed earlier, is done by passing the filled container, whether filled by pressure filling process or the cold filling process, through a water bath which has 130 degree Fahrenheit temperature, and they are examined for any leakage. This is very important. Okay, the spray testing is done. Many of the products are 100% spray tested, whether the actuator is able to spray or not. Okay, that is very important, and it is important to check for any defects in the valves and the spray pattern. Now you have different evaluation tests of the propellants. Okay, the propellants are evaluated for flammability and combustibility. Very important. Okay, as we have seen that the fluorinated fluorinated hydrocarbon propellants are not flammable in nature. Okay, whereas the hydrocarbon propellants are flammable in nature. Okay, so there are two tests for flammability. You have the flash point test and you have the flame projection test. So what is done in flash point test? The apparatus which is used for this test is known as the tag open cup apparatus. You can see the apparatus here. The product here is chilled to minus 25 degree Fahrenheit, and the test liquid temperature is allowed to increase slowly, and the temperature at which the vapors ignite is known as the flash point. The flash point, okay, the temperature at which the vapors ignite is the flash point. The flame projection test, as you can see here, that the product is sprayed for 4 seconds to the fullest extent, and then you measure the length of the flame extended. Okay, you have the ruler which is fitted behind, so whenever it is flamed, you can measure the length of the flame here. Higher is the higher is the length, higher is the flammability and combustibility of that particular propellant. These two tests are very important tests. Physicochemical test are the normal physicochemical test you perform for any compound, okay, any pharmaceutical compound. You have the vapor pressure test, density test, moisture test, and identification of the propellants, which we have seen earlier. This we are not going to discuss in detail. Performance, okay, the aerosol product performance is very important. How much amount is dispensed in a particular spray? Okay, it's very important for pharmaceutical aerosols, as we are concerned with the dose emitted from a particular or from one spray. So first you have the aerosol valve discharge rate. Okay, so here this test is performed by discharging the contents of known weight for specific time. It is a discharge rate. Okay, anything which is related to rate is related to time. Okay, so you discharge the contents of known weight for specific time, and reweighing the container, the change in weight per time represents the discharge rate. The spray pattern, it is examined by impingement of the spray on a paper which has been treated with ditalc mixture. This ditalc mixture will absorb the spray, and you will be easily able to know the spray pattern of the aerosol container. Dosage with metered vials. This test is very important. It is done by assay. Okay, you spray the container and then that volume is collected and it is assayed by different techniques, and you know how much amount is available in a particular spray. Okay, if you have seen any asthma spray, okay, so what happens, first of all, in the product leaflet they have written you have to go for the priming doses. Priming doses are there to remove the excess dose in the beginning, okay, which is waste, because we have filled the contents under pressure. So 2-3 doses are the priming doses. You expel the extra amount which is just the excess air in the container, and then actually the spray is done, and that spray is examined for how much amount of the drug is dispensed in a particular spray. The net contents, like if you are filling 100 microliter, if you are claiming that this container has 100 microliter of the solution, exactly does it have 100 microliter? That is tested by the net contents. The container is emptied and weighed again and again. So you take a lot from a container and then examine for the net contents test. The foam stability, if you have a foam type of aerosol, then the stability of foam is very important, which is done by visual examination and different tests. Okay, the particle size determination, very important for the nasal aerosols or the aerosols which are given by respiratory tract. Okay, because the aerosols which are meant to be given through respiratory tract, they should have a particular size around 3 to 5 micrometer to be absorbed from the alveolar lung region. So particle size determination is very important there, and which is done by cascade impactor and light scattering decay. The cascade impactor you will see in detail in the later on semesters, but to give you brief overview, it is a tiffin box like arrangement, and you have a, like if you have seen a sieve shaker in your physical pharmacy experiments, you have different sizes of the sieves arranged at each stage. There are 7 stages which are resembling our lung. Okay, and then the product is filled through, if it is a dry powder, it is filled in the capsule and it is then forced with the help of the outlet air, and then you count the amount which is deposited on each stage, which will give you the amount how much it is reaching into your lung. And the light scattering decay, which is the normal method used for determination of the particle size. The biological testing is done to see the therapeutic activity of the aerosol container, which is done by clinical study, and the toxicity study is also very important, whether it is causing any toxicity or not, which is done in the phase 4 trials. Okay, now these are some of the marketed products of the aerosols. You must have seen the asthma spray, which is fluticasone. Then you have a combination of fluticasone and salmeterol spray for asthma. So majorly you have the marketed aerosol products which are used for asthma, and you have albuterol which is used for bronchospasm. So I hope you are very clear with the pharmaceutical aerosol, the components and the manufacturing process and different quality control tests the aerosol must pass through. If you want to refer pharmaceutical aerosols in detail, you may refer Lachman book, you may refer various sources, internet sources are available to give you information latest about how the aerosol products are manufactured. You refer some review articles, okay? So I hope this session was very helpful to you. So do subscribe our channel Pharma Ignite, do like and subscribe. Thank you.